On this week's podcast, it's all about the PlayStation 2 as we discuss what made it so special and where we rank it among other consoles. We also react to Gamescom Opening Night Live, and on this week's Pixel Picks Showdown, you guessed it, we take on the small task of naming the best PS2 game. All this and more on the Pixel Parent Podcast. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Pixel Parents Podcast, the show that discusses all things gaming from the perspective of parents. I am your host Liam Kirkkelvin, and today I am joined by Scott, the bearded one, the tastemaker. Curry, how are we, Scott?
Fine like wine. Warm. It's very warm in this room.
You find it warm?
I'm exceptionally warm, but
I could tell you where you've gone wrong.
I'm wearing a hoodie in the house. It's all wrong. But apart from that, I'm pretty good. I've had a day. It's been a Tuesday. Tuesday? Is it Tuesday? Aye.
It's a Tuesday. Yep.
It's definitely been a Tuesday. And I had spaghetti bolognese for dinner, so I can't really argue.
Lovely.
Apart from that, there's nothing really to report. It's just been, normal life as is. Mm-hmm. Kind of child now back at nursery, so we're now living the dream. House back to myself, me and the dog, kicking it.
Just you in your pants.
Me in the pants all day. Me and the dog in our pants, just kicking it all day. But no, apart from that, genuinely nothing to report.
That's good. We like that.
There's nothing exciting.
Steady as she goes.
Aye. If there's nothing rocking the boat, then that's how I want it to be.
Don't rock the boat.
Rock the boat, baby.
No, that's good. I pretty much the same for me this week. Normality is good. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since we've had normality, so it's good to have that. I mean, if we recorded this yesterday, I would not be in such a chipper mood. I had a day at work where it was just, like those cartoons where there's a storm cloud over your head because you're just absolutely pissed off. But yeah, that passed. Everything passes. Like I always say, sleep on it, next day's a new day, and you go for it again. So much better day today. And yeah, I'm just glad to be back, shooting the breeze. Talking the games.
I wish there was a breeze in here. I'm dying.
Take your damn jumper off.
I can't. I'm naked. Record it naked.
Yeah, that's the secret sauce to this podcast. Of course, we've also been watching Opening Night Live as well, which we'll get to later in the show. But before we do that, I think we'll just get some housekeeping out the road. So for those listening, this is the Pixel Parents Podcast, the weekly podcast by parents who game, for those who do the same, where each week we discuss all things gaming while raising little ones. And if you want to be part of the podcast, come say hello and share your thoughts with us at pixel_parents on Twitter, or write to us at pixelparentspodcast.com. And if you like what you hear and want to support the show, you can leave a 5-star review and share your podcast online with your friends. It really helps us out. And of course, thank you to everybody that joins us each and every week. So with that out of the way, Scott, what have you been playing this week?
I have had a very interesting week.
Right.
Off the back of last week's episode, we obviously had a long chat about the Xbox 360. Mm-hmm. And before I jump on that, yes, this does mean that I've fallen off Prince of Persia hard.
Oh,
I just couldn't be bothered with it.
Didn't click.
Played it for long enough, but I just couldn't be arsed with it. So decided I'm going to look down the library of Xbox 360 games that I either own or would really like to play. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find one. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and then it became apparent. I know what I want to play. I know what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to play a Dragon Age game.
Wow.
Right?
We've got them.
So, I watched... I've not really watched anything to do with the Veilguard, but I was listening to some podcasts talking about it, and I'm like, right, okay. I'm not the biggest Dragon Age fan, but let's see. I played Inquisition, and I am, the Herald of Andraste now, as we all are. But I never played any of them before that. I've heard people talk about,
Origins
and everything like that. So that's where I am. I've been playing Dragon Age Origins, and I am 20 hours deep in that game.
Wow.
Since last week. I've honestly not stopped playing it.
So it's safe to say you're enjoying it then.
It is phenomenal.
Yep.
I honestly didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I have been.
Oh, it's such a phenomenal game though.
But it's excellent. I'm with everyone on this. Morrigan, I will die for her. Will die for her. I will also not hear Windslander in this household. It's not happening.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Sten is a stalwart, but I will stab him in the head. If he says anything again to me, he's for it. Every single decision I make, he's like, no. I'm like, you don't matter. You get yourself to keep you in that cage if you want. But I'm balls deep in this game. Like I'm loving it. It's I've saved Eamon, whatever his name is. I've managed to get him. And I've got Mad Earn. Actually, I don't really care for the story. I'm not really here for that. But I'm so far into it. It's just ridiculous.
Excellent.
And I'm genuinely trolling through posts online looking for what are the best builds that I can use for each character and stuff. And that's when you know you're in deep.
Yeah.
What could I be doing better? But it's just been great. It's sometimes really nice to play a game that's not brand new. It's got this history behind it, and having never played it before, it's very kind of rudimentary in what it does, but it does it really well. You've got all these mad menus and stuff, but it's not confusing. I know exactly what I'm looking for. And when play Baldur's Gate, for example, you're playing that game and there's menu city, and you can lose yourself in that for years.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it's very much, I know what I'm looking for. I can read through the codex if I want to. I can get the history of everything. It's just, it's fantastic. But I'm all in on it. I don't know where it'll lead me to. I don't know whether or not I'll move down the list of them. But I was googling what's the best Dragon Age game to play if it's baby's first Dragon Age game, and they all recommended Origins. So
yeah, by far.
I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
I'm a dwarf. I'm now in Orzama. I've managed to go back up to the Frostback Mountains, and I'm in Orzama again. This is ridiculous. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
You know how happy this makes me.
It's so good, honestly. It's nice to have something weird to play. But that leads me on to the next. So I have a wee story for you,
right?
And then I'll let you take over.
Hit me with it.
So, obviously, today you text me saying, are you going to buy Wukong? And I wasn't going to buy it, and then I bought it. So now I have Wukong on the list. It's there to play.
Lovely.
I'm absolutely buzzing to play it, and I also went to CEX this week to trade in Unicorn Overlord, and I bought Stellar Blade.
Finally,
so I've got both of them. I've got both of them on the list for the rest of the year.
I do look forward to hearing your thoughts on both. My decision on Black Myth Wukong hinges entirely on your recommendation. So there's something. I can't deny it. It looks fantastic. Yes. There's been a lot of buzz about it. Obviously, it's doing incredibly well on Steam. It's an understatement just now. I do have a sneaky suspicion that the console version might have some performance issues, and that can get patched out.
Yeah.
And I'm not really we talked about this months ago. I'm not the guy to blame. Usually I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just going straight in.
Yeah.
But yeah, very intrigued to hear your thoughts on that. And then Stellar Blade's a game I've said for ages. I'm shocked that you've not played that. It just seems like downtown Scott Curryville.
I had the voucher there for it, so I thought, you know what, I'll just spring for it. I'm not going to pay for anything else. So
yeah,
it's there, so it's on the list. But these two brand new games that I've got to play, and all I want to play is Dragon Age. It's absolutely ridiculous. See the quick resume function on the Xbox as well. What a gift that is.
Phenomenal.
It's just ridiculous. I can turn that game off at night and I turn it back on, in the middle of my lunch break, and I'm like, I pick up from exactly where I've left off. I think that's why you can sink so many hours into it, because it isn't, you're not having to wait on menus loading and stuff, and it loads faster. It just looks so much better. So I'm lost in this world, and I need to get out of it. But I think I'm probably I'm maybe about 50% of the way through it. I think I'm probably halfway through.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered, but
I'd say about 20 hours in, especially if you've been mainlining it.
Yeah,
pretty
I've not been doing loads of stuff, but I've kind of got myself into the mindset now where I'm like, I'm going to go and kill Flemeth. I'm going to do it. But it's like, I tried to do it the first time, saved my game before it, and I literally just got melted. So I'm like, no, maybe I'll go back. I'll go back at some point. And aye, that's me.
Excellent.
For this week.
Pretty good week, actually.
It's been great. You know, it's nice to relive some of the games that we not kind of didn't play, but you know what I mean, like games of our youth. And maybe it'll take me down a Dragon Age, you know, playthrough. But I don't want to do what I did with the Gears of War games as well, because before the most recent Gears of War game came out, I played them all again, and then I tried to play the most recent one, and I just couldn't be bothered with it.
Just
so
burnt out on it.
Aye, so
Yeah.
I don't want it to get to that point, but aye, I thought that's an interesting story to come in with, because it's a game that nobody will ever expect me to ever play, and I'm absolutely loving it. Like,
Well, you know, colour me shocked. It was probably the last thing I was expecting, but I'm delighted. I mean, it has been an age since I've played that game. There you go, boom, boom. But, you know, for me this week, I've kind of went down the similar path, continuing from last week. You know, it's been a bit of a... I think because we're settling back into the routine at home and stuff like that, you know, my daughter's will be back to school, my son's back to nursery. So it's kind of almost impacting like your day-night cycle a little bit. So I've actually been having like a lot more earlier nights. Me and my wife we've actually decided to go back and rewatch Sons of Anarchy. So she recommended it, and I was like, okay, like we've not watched it since it finished about 10 years ago or something, and I've forgotten it all. So again, it's been so long since we've actually done that. Just sit down and
watch
like
the TV show.
Oh, let's get the next episode going, because there's been a dearth of that recently. So I spent a lot of my time this week kind of doing that, kind of easing up, because I think I know, taking a beat. And I was talking to my wife about it as well. We're about to enter silly season. You know, as at the end of this month, I think Star Wars Outlaw, in fact, even Black Myth Wukong, I think, is out today or tomorrow. Today, right? So that probably officially kicks off silly season for us, doesn't it? And there's so many good games on the horizon. So I'm like, do you know what? Let's put in a wee bit of quality time. But in between that, I've still been playing stuff. I've not taken a complete break, of course. And in a similar vein, continuing with an old game that I never finished, but I'm pretty much at the end of it now. So I've continued my playthrough of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, also on Game Pass. I mean, it really just reminded me of how much I loved that reboot trilogy, you know. And yes, Shadow's probably the weakest in terms of story.
Yeah.
But the mechanics and the gameplay, I mean, it's as close as you'll get to a good Rambo simulator. It's mental. Like, Lara Croft is a killing machine. I totally forgot about all this, and I've just been really enjoying it. Like, I was very hesitant at first, but the game's actually kind of wanting you to duck and dive, nip in and out. The stealth sections, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not like Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's damn good. You know, really is damn good. And to the point where I'm like, it's almost insane and sad that this has kind of gone away. I know there's a new game coming out on Unreal Engine 5, and it's Amazon Games, I think, that's going to be doing it. Doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, if I'm honest, but I'm excited again about Tomb Raider. I just wish... Are
you going to spring for the remasters?
Nah. I mean, I had my time with them as a kid, and I don't think they'll age well, to be honest with you. But I'm still enjoying that. I'll probably finish that off tomorrow, latest, to be honest with you. And I sprung back into Fortnite because of the new season, and it's Marvel based, so it's like, hello, long time no see. And especially if it's got Doctor Doom there, I'm there. So, and of course, I went in, got the season pass, because it turned out it still had points available to do it from the last time we dipped a toe.
What was that for again? Was that, I think, Snake, maybe?
That wasn't Marvel related.
Was it Marvel? Yeah, is that how you got me back into it in the first place?
Yeah, because I'd like the Moon Knight skin and stuff like that.
Ridiculous, man.
But Doom's going to be a separate skin on its own, and I'm like, it's a game. I'm not going to start playing Fortnite. I'm going to end up buying that skin because I love Doctor Doom so much. But it's like I have to have it. Interesting. Going back to it,
it's a weird game now.
It's so strange.
The menus don't make sense. and there's like random Guitar Hero parts of it as well now. It's like
it's huge. I mean, it's games within a game now, and it's a hub effectively.
Yeah.
And there's things like your Rocket League stuff now goes into the racing mode and stuff like that in it. I've not touched them. I just went straight into no build battle royale, and they've mixed a lot more PvE elements in from when we last played it.
Yeah.
So it's like you can go in and you've got to find locations. So you have to go to wherever Dr. Doom's location is in the map. You'll have to fight loads of Doom bots, and you could take on Doom. If you take him out, you're getting experience points. You can do the same, like you can fight White Queen as well, and I can't remember Mysterio is the other one. So it's like 3 different places. So it's very PvE centric, but of course you're getting XP for that, and there's a lot of other players. But I've not had the chance this week just because of the routine. I was really excited to I'm like, it's Marvel based. I'll show this like to my son and see if he's interested, just even watching or whatnot.
That's how it starts.
That's how it starts, indeed.
That's like the first beer, Homer's first beer. When I was 17.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, I suppose he's gonna get to know. I mean, it's the same with like Minecraft. Like he's played that and knows what that is. I'm not going to fight against it. It's going to happen. Because let's face it, Fortnite's still going to be huge.
Aye.
And outside of that, we've got a nice story this week, and it's usually I always say it's my sad Marvel Snap update. It's my happy one. Okay, right. I'm taking pride in it now with my secret shame and addiction. But I had a really lovely moment this week. So I talked about the alliances, and of course we've got a chat as part of that. And I've discovered that a lot of my fellow Alliance members are also gamer parents in there. And, checked with the moderator in there just to make sure it's okay about sharing the link to this show and stuff like that. And they're all very, very encouraging and so positive about it. And we all kind of got to know each other. Like, we've all got kids roughly round about the same age and stuff like that. And again, it was just so refreshing, just kind of, again, finding another tribe there that's there's so much in common. Like, I try to get X amount of time in just to get a little time for me and all that type of stuff. And yeah, it was good. It just made me feel really positive. And also, I was top of the Alliance this week, which is mental. I did not expect that. And I don't play it to do that. It was just one of those ones I just played it as normal. And then I checked before the reset, and it's like, I'm at the top, but it's not represented in my rank on ladder. I've just been neglecting that so far. But yeah, by that, it's just been a pretty straightforward week. But I'm, very much now. I'm like a coiled spring. Time for new games.
You're kind of getting ready for it. It's like hyperbolic time chamber.
Yes.
Like getting yourself prepared for sale coming. Was it Frieza? One of the two of them.
It's obviously this weekend is my birthday, so I've taken half of next week off, and it also dovetails when Star Wars Outlaws is out. So there we go.
Shocking.
Shock, horror. So I'm looking forward to that, to be honest. So you get some peace, and I'm really looking forward to diving into that game and sharing thoughts on here. But I think it'd be good for us to kind of, as we mentioned before, we've also watched the Gamescom Opening Night live.
Yep.
And we're not going to do a big Pixel reacts on this. I think it's really just kind of touching over the whole thing. But overall, what did you make of the show, Scott?
I missed half of it because I was driving here. So I missed about half an hour of it. But from what I gathered from it, it was, Jeff Keighley promises a lot and delivers very little in some cases for me.
He's doing it. He's making a bit of a habit of it.
Yeah, it's... And then do you know what? He didn't lie to us. It's not like... See, when you see that, he gives you the list of games that are coming.
It's all there.
And then it's like, and much more. It's like, well, that's fair enough. But I'm not watching this for, Farming Simulator 400. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just all these games they're just coming out loads. And I sometimes feel that some of the trailers that show up, you said it earlier on, it's just like you get like a developer chat and then it leads to gameplay. It's like, just give us the gameplay. We don't need it. Yeah. Like, don't need to have a conversation about how we're all hard at work and stuff. Like, we know you are.
Yeah.
Just make that representative in the trailer and just get it out the way. Like, I'd rather something like this. How long was this?
2 hours
2 hours long, right? So condense it down into an hour and a half at most. Just give us trailers after trailer after trailer. Talk about the teams, and that's all we need. Like, give them their props if you want to, but it's just...
we had similar thoughts we did Pixel Reacts in the summer.
Yeah.
With the Summer Game Fest live, and here we are again a few months later saying largely the same things. And before we started recording, I was kind of touching on that. It's like also my day-to-day jobs in marketing communications, and I kind of view it through the lens of that, to be honest with you, because I'm like, this just really isn't taking advantage of the real estate time, because I do wonder, because we're in this era now of, you know, live streaming events, and really it's still in its infancy. I know it's probably really only taken hold in the past, decade, I would say. And how much longer is the audience going to, like, get themselves hyped up to really be, like, walking away going, It's not even like, that was rubbish. It's more like, there's one or two things. And the 2 hours is a long time. And I look at it and I'm like, it just feels like there's so much misfiring.
Yeah.
Like, from a marketing perspective and also from an organising perspective.
The big issue for me is that there's no competition for them. It's like it's like the WWE and WCW back. I'm not saying AEW because it's not a competition, right? No. Come at me. But it's like, you know, if he's the only person in town that's going to do this, then he can do it any way he wants to. It's like Ruthless Aggression era from the WWE. It's like, it's terrible, but there's nothing else on. So it's like, we have to put up with this because it's the only way we can digest this content. Whereas if, you know, Elon Musk came out and says, do you know what? I'm going to give up being an absolute pain in the ass on the internet. Yeah. Even though he just wants to be liked. He just wants to be loved, Elon Musk. But if he came out and says, look, I'm cutting everything out, but I'm just going to make an event where I can just showcase the greatest games of all time, and that's it. The greatest games that are coming up. And he does it for an hour and then buggers off. No personalities, it's just games. That's what we want. It's not, I don't care about Jeff Keighley. I'm really sorry, Jeff. Like, I don't need to see him on screen saying brand new world premiere. It's just get it on and just bash it out.
He did do a better job this time of taking a side step. I'll give him that. Hand it to the co-host Shocks, I think it was doing it. I totally agree with you. There is the double-edged sword of it though, which is where's the space for smaller studio published titles and stuff like that, and I get it, but this has been advertised effectively as a mainstream thing. Like, come here and you're going to get the big hitters. And I know we're all very cynical. It's like, oh, you know, I've had enough of AAA gaming and stuff like that. But unfortunately, we as the hardcore, when we see, like, there is the odd indie game that shows up and it's like, that looks really cool, check that out. That's not the casuals. And I know the casuals aren't watching this, but this is the difficult thing where it's like, we're in a grey space, and you're right. There's too much. I've said this for years. Keighley needs to stop presenting these shows. Like, push them out, maybe have a little thing on it, and then use your voice to give other people platforms. He's getting better at it, but the problem is there is a little bit of, you know, I don't know, messiah complex I get from him. I just get these vibes, and he's worked very hard to get all that. I'm not taking it away from him.
He deserves it. He deserves what he's done, because it's
his ball. He can do what he likes.
It's giving him a platform that they don't have. Like with E3 gone and stuff like that as well, it's giving people a platform, and it's necessary in this day and age. But I don't see enough people calling these shows out for what they are. I feel like we do make a lot of excuses for it, and particularly if you have a larger platform. I tend to find the larger the platform, the more apologetic that you tend to find it is for Jeff Keighley. And I'm not digging people out. It's more just, I just want it to be better. I want him to... No. It's not about that. It's not about like picking fights with, you know, people online. Like, they do them, that's good. But I think it is, there's so much room for improvement. Opening Night Live has always been the weakest of the Keighley shows. But we're going to be back here, guarantee you, in a few months at the Game Awards, and we're going to be talking about the same problems, which is they speed through the awards too much. It doesn't really do what it says in the tin, which is Game Awards, and it's all marketing. And then we're going to get, you know, some free-to-play online garbage filler all the way through it that, let's face it, nobody's playing it. Nobody's playing it. I don't need to see another World of Tanks-like game pop up and some crossover thing. You know, even if it is a 90-second spot, it's 90 seconds of your audience time that you're wasted. Now, it's different if you're taking ad breaks in between, say, awards. Right? But with Opening Night Live, I mean, I'm not going to go through every announcement here. The ones that I would care about, I mean,
straight away I know you had the Terry Bogard gameplay reveal for Street Fighter 6, right? So that's what you're talking about. You're
decent
cooking.
now, yeah.
He made a very small acknowledgement of the struggles in the industry at the start.
Very small.
And by, I think, a mention,
Yeah.
right? Which was...
It's been a difficult year.
Yeah. Which it has been, but I don't know what else he can do about that, so I can't really mark him. Obviously, the Borderlands 4 reveal came out now. Like it or lump it, that's a huge announcement, but as I said to you, whoever's running that marketing team needs to be taken out back and have a quick word with them, because after the disaster of a film, this is not the time, and especially for what we got with the cinematic.
And that trailer, it's nothing.
Just take the time to cook.
Yeah.
Announce it with the gameplay, get us excited. But right now, the first thing I thought about was it's a bit of a, the brand ain't cool just now.
Yeah.
And that's it's not vibing. It's not vibing.
Randy Pitchford's face on screen saying, "I make this better than the movie."
I mean, even after all that nonsense last week with him in defence of it, I mean, it felt like the wrong time. And finding the right beat is very important. You've got to have a good cadence in your campaigns. And speaking of campaigns, he started strong. He did a big look over the Black Ops 6 campaign. And to be fair to that, I know that isn't the main event. It's not the main event.
Nope.
But the campaign, had glimpses of Slick Willy, Bill Clinton. And I actually looked. I thought to myself, see if this was just a game in itself, not Call of Duty. I'd be like, this looks
this
really,
is cool.
really cool.
It's just a pure action movie.
Yeah.
I felt like it was the wrong place for it.
Yeah,
It feels like, why am I watching like a full 5-minute, 10-minute gameplay of the campaign?
I did appreciate though they put in the fast forwards. They could have cut. You're right.
Oh, that was cool though. But
It
was just like, it feels like the wrong place for this. Like, Call of Duty could have done this on their own dime and in their own time. So,
well, they will be at COD next.
Exactly, they could have done it there.
And I didn't realise the beta's at the end of the month as well, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. Then we kind of went through other stuff. I mean, they had the Persona 3 Reload DLC, which you'll be interested in naturally.
I am now, yeah. Joker coming back.
Exactly. It looks like there's a boss battle with him. Try to see what else came out. I mean,
I can't believe I know we shouldn't comment on it, but the Goat Simulator trailer was a thing of beauty.
That was actually really funny.
It was really good.
That was really funny. I liked all the references. I think I noted down here there was like GTA, Skyrim. That was hilarious actually, the Skyrim reference. I mean, again, we're not here just to shit all over the show.
Yeah.
It's just that it started, you're going to start to feel how things start to veer off at this point.
Yeah.
Then you start to get some of the filler. So you got like the Black Myth Wukong launch trailer. If you ask me, day release, this has been here.
Yep.
This could really be, if it could be a tweet, I don't want it in there.
Yeah.
They've got another one for Dragon Ball Spark and Zero, which is coming out in October, but I feel like we've seen enough of that just now.
There wasn't anything new in it. It was just like a 20-second thing. It was just like, this is coming out, that's it, there you go.
And those trailers are so jam-packed and so arresting in all your senses, you can't make sense of actually what's going to happen.
The Japanese TV show in The Simpsons. You're just like...
It is, and we both love Dragon Ball. But
exactly,
it's like,
aye.
This is a bit much. There was a trailer for this dungeon 4-player co-op game, King of Meat. Kind of Fall
Guys with combat.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, we've seen more of Lost Records, Blooming Rage, and... from the Don't Nod, and it's very first person Life is Strange. Obviously, that's my jam, and I'm happy with that. But again, it's like seen this before.
Yeah,
not really doing what it says in the tin. What else did we have? Then we had, just a few. We had more of Infinity Nikki, a bit more of Warhammer Space Marine 2, which feels like that's been marketed for about 10 years. If I'm honest,
I can't believe you're not commenting on No More Room in Hell 2, the most metal name in all of games.
Yeah, it is the most metal name, but you're going to start to see me skip over stuff. They did have like next one I thought was even worth mentioning is the Dune Awakening gameplay reveal.
Yep.
I know it didn't tickle your pickle, but it's one of those ones. It's coming to PC early release in 2025.
Cool.
It did look so much more than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I made a note here, and it's almost like Starfield. That's the way to describe it, in the sense that you can go in there, customise your character, all the rest of it. It's going to have multiplayer elements, as we know, where you're basically fighting other players for spice and stuff like that. So it's very like lower world build around it, and it ended like with big massive battle and stuff like that. But I walked away thinking, I don't know what I thought this game was going to be,
But it's not
but
this.
it's not this. So in which case I was like, right, well, cool. I'm not going to play it, but it's like, fair enough.
Someone will.
Someone will. The one I had trouble with was right after it, and it was Reanimal from Tarsier Studios, right, who did Little Nightmares. And later on in the show, they showed off Little Nightmares 3. I swear to Christ, these are the same game. I swear to God, like, I have no idea what we're thinking.
They look the same. I
Same
left
show.
to come here after the kind of just before the Dune Awakening trailer, and I never saw this, but I watched it before we came on here. And if you had spliced together both of those trailers, I couldn't have told you the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then move on a couple later. Again, I'm not going through all of them. If you want all of them, go online and find it. You can. I think the next one that's worth note here is the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer.
Yes.
What did you make of that?
It looks like a Monster Hunter game. It looks more like a Monster Hunter game in this trailer than it ever has. I've not been keeping up with all the combat stuff that's been shown off, but it looked cool. It looked very kind of Tsugami as well, like the kind of the flower spidery kind of thing that you're trying to kill. It looked very kind of Tsugami, but it's got more colour to it. Like,
yeah, it does.
It looks gorgeous. So
I'm not a Monster Hunter player, as you know. That's definitely that's your department here. But I did think that this looked fantastic, and it actually just looks so much more polished from when we saw it a few months ago. So fair play.
Yeah,
fair play
definitely. I think there's a wee bit of intrigue in there with me, so I'll probably have a look at it.
Excellent. And then there was a few other ones as well. Well, you got Civ 7, the gameplay reveal trailer. Now, they're going to be doing a gameplay showcase probably right now, or it's just happened on Twitch. Looked absolutely gorgeous. Coming 11th of February next year, so the new art style and stuff. And it was a very much a teaser of the gameplay.
Yeah.
And if you've played Civ, you know what you're getting here, but it does look fantastic, to be fair. So that's something to be excited about. One that I got excited about, but it's a small one.
Okay.
Well, actually quite a large one, but Starfield. No, this is where you roll your eyes. But the Rev 8 land vehicle is getting added now. Free update. So they've added a land vehicle.
Right now?
Yep, right now.
So you're going to go and play it?
There's Todd Howard there. He's updating.
Right, Todd.
And the Shattered Space expansion is coming 30th of September.
Did we know that?
No, that's first date that's been shared for it. So
right, okay.
That was exciting. And also, it's been crying out for a land vehicle since launch. So it's going to make the game.
It hasn't had that.
I know. And it was cool. It's not just like just forward back. It's got rockets and stuff like that, so you can float about.
Good.
And then we moved on to one which I do think this might be maybe my second or joint top announcement, which was Marvel Rivals getting a date, which leaked beforehand, but it's 6th of December.
Yep.
2 new heroes. We're getting Captain America, who looked like a tank style class, and Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, who looked more like a DPS style. And I can't wait. And the thing that's amazing, all heroes are going to be available at launch and beyond.
Yes, that's cool.
And it's free to play. So, I mean, yes, fantastic. This game is going to be huge.
Enormous.
Absolutely huge. So much fun. I can't wait. Then, after that, probably the joint top, Tim Miller, obviously, as we know, director of Deadpool.
Yeah.
And the co-founder of Blur Studio. So, they do cinematics. They've been doing it for 30 years. Did it for like Quake, COD, you name it. And he came out and he mentioned it's like they always get feedback, and I'm sure we spoke about this off podcast. It's like, wouldn't it be great to get a movie that looked like those cinematics? And that's what they're doing here.
That's
so
cool.
They're doing an anthology series called Secret Level, which is coming the 10th of December to Amazon Prime. And there was a lot of cool IP on show. Should we mention it, or should we just encourage people to watch it? Because it's a pretty cool surprise.
Go and watch it, aye.
Yeah.
It's worth having a look at, because there's loads of stuff in there that it flashes up and you're like, ooh, it's class, man. So
It looks insane.
Looks insane. December is filling up.
It is busy December.
Busy December.
Then we got more filler. We got a little extra peek at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which I'm kind of vibing with that.
You're going to buy it. I
know,
can
but
smell it.
It's that wee peppering in of humour
Yeah.
put in there that's just kind of tipping the scales. And then the next one, which I'm sure a friend of the show, Alex,
I'll be very excited about.
yes, well, they'll be talking about this in their podcast for sure, but they showed off first gameplay trailer for Batman Arkham Shadow. God, it looks fantastic.
It does, and
God,
you know,
it looks fantastic.
it's doing VR better than I've seen VR being done.
Yeah,
And
Batman Simulator.
do you know, it's the shot in the arm. From what I'm gathering from the VR community, because I'm big in that, is what I'm gathering that needs. You know,
oh, definitely. They need something like this. I think Alex mentioned that when he was on the episode, like just something to get more people in.
Yeah.
Obviously, it gave us really good insight just about like the investment and the push-pull that's happening. But I mean, October 2024 doesn't get more mainstream than that, and it looked fantastic. Just the way that they did the gadgets, the detective vision, the combat.
Yes.
They're nailing this. They've got something special in their hands, I think, and if it's a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, who knows? It might make its way to other VR platforms.
It'd be daft not to.
Yeah, although we did say that about Half-Life Alyx, didn't we? So,
but you can play that now with a PSVR headset.
Oh, true, actually, with the
adapter. With the adapter and stuff,
That's
so you
right.
can play that now.
Like, we're well at our
Look at
depth
me,
now.
and
well at our depth.
I'm would you call him Steve Buscemi and that? How do you do, fellow kids?
That's it.
That's how I feel right now.
No, absolutely. But then they showed off Reanimal again. No, they didn't. It was Little Nightmares 3. More Little Nightmares, which is good. Then Peter Molyneux made a random appearance to show your favourite game of the show, Masters of Albion.
Masters of Albion.
Yep.
It's.
I can't believe he's back out.
It's just incredible. It's just big hand mode.
Yeah. So it's another God mode game. If you played Black and White, it's set in Albion within that world of Fable.
Is it?
And it has to be, mate. It has to be.
But how can he do that?
I have no idea. But it's Peter Molyneux, so people do just kind of fawn at his feet. It's Peter Molyneux. You know what I mean?
Of course it is.
So far be it from me to say that he might overpromise.
All I heard was theme park. All I heard was theme park, and I lost interest immediately because theme park is the GOAT. Yeah. It is the best thing that ever happened to me.
It did look like an Xbox 360 game, but it could be very, very early. So I'm not going to be criticising it for that. But it was still cool to see something like that coming out. It was a big surprise. Then moving on again, we got some like filler from Blizzard. Yeah, bar that, and then it just moved on to the next big thing was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is coming to Xbox on 9th of December, but also coming to PlayStation 5 in spring next year. Xbox
fans are raging. It is. I said it's like a kick in the balls. If you're saying you're in the playground and you're like, ha, I've got this Pokemon card and I can only buy it because it's not available anymore, and then you turn around and there's a car behind you with an advert on it that says buy it now tomorrow. Yeah. It's a bit of a kick in the balls.
Yeah, I mean,
but as consumers, we should all be happy that they're doing this, because absolutely. having it on PlayStation opens it up for more people to play, and you can play it wherever you want to.
Exactly, and also like if you're fortunate like ourselves and you've got both platforms and Game Pass, where are you going to play it?
Xbox, because it's
the strategy works.
It definitely does, and they're obviously doing it because Sea of Thieves has been enormous on PlayStation, so it's a good thing. It is a good thing, because all we need now is just every other Xbox game on it. Give me Kane and Lynch.
Oh.
Give me everything.
Well, then there was one more thing to end it on, and it was actually a pretty cool one, to be fair, which was Mafia: The Old Country, which is coming. Well, it's set in 1900 Sicily.
Yep.
I think there's going to be more information coming in December of this year. But that was a pretty cool kind of look at the future of the series, going back to old school mafioso simulators. I'm sure that'll be action packed. It was just a cinematic that was shown, though, so all we can do is use our imagination. But Mafia's always do well. Always do well.
Do they, though?
Well, Mafia 3 definitely
Mafia 3 did.
I think they're due a win.
They are. I think with something like this, it's
I think a 13.
It is just. It's a total slam dunk. I think going back to that, it just I can't see it.
I mean, we summarised that fairly quickly, and there was a lot of stuff I've left out there.
Yeah.
So it's not something I'd recommend you go back and watch. Maybe get a IGN article or something, just go through the list if you're really interested. But yeah, it was just
there wasn't anything. Even just going through that list, there's nothing there that I'm like desperate to go back and watch again.
Well, I was very surprised, and I think this is a wee bit cheeky as well, right? That Death Stranding 2 wasn't there because we know Hideo Kojima had posted out 2 images, Who Am I? Just teasing characters in the game. And he was, I think Jeff Keighley interacted with the eyes.
That's because he knows.
And obviously he's playing as like a damn fiddle, but it's also telling me if Hideo's putting stuff out like that, there must be a state of play in the way. And we're also anticipating this PS5 Pro announcement probably in September. So, I mean, what better way to kind of get people sold on the console?
I think it all roads point to a state of play.
Yeah.
And I also think that the Who Am I stuff's going to be the Japanese cast. I don't think it's going to be anyone new. I think it's just going to show you pictures of who are playing the voices for Norman Reedus, because he's been showing off like the voice acting and stuff like that. They've been doing it over the last few months, and the image of the guy looks exactly like the Japanese voice actor for Sam Porter Bridges. So
there we go.
I think it's just going to be that. But also, don't quote me on that, because it could also just be,
it's fun to speculate.
It could be someone with a wig on. It could be anything. But I'm interested to see more about it, even though it's going to be Death Stranding, but with Troy Baker with a guitar.
I have a funny feeling that it might be a lot more amped up than the first one.
I hope so, because it needs it. And
yeah, they can't do the same thing again. I mean, no game can do that.
He can, though.
He can, but
Kojima will all love it. But
I think he takes too much pride in his work to do that.
Do you know, the only thing I want from Death Stranding 2 is give me an option to listen to music whilst I'm walking.
Yeah.
See, not having like an iPod or something just to be like, I'll listen to this whilst I'm walking. Like, all the technology in the world, but he can't listen to music when he's at the mental.
I've never even thought of that. I suppose, though, I did really enjoy when I played that game when the music came in atmospherically. But you're right, there was a lot of time. Those
were moments when you walk over that first hill and you see that big building, that you see the port, and it's like, we're in this now. But you see, after you've done that 6 times, it's like, just let me listen to fucking music. Do you know what I mean? Let me listen to whatever I want to listen to. Like,
shout out to Low Roller, though.
Oh, mate, fantastic.
But yeah, no, that was opening night live.
It was.
5 out of 10 for me, if I'm honest.
I don't even think I could go that high. Even just looking back on the notes that I've made, it's nice to see COD, Persona 3, and that's probably it. I'm not big on Indiana Jones. Couldn't care less about Peter Molyneux. And that's basically where I am.
Street Fighter 6.
But that was pre-show, though. Pre-show.
Right, so it was.
He doesn't get it for that.
So it was. Yeah, you're right. Oh, cool. Well, do you know what? Let's move on to the main topic of the show. Something I think that's going to be much rosier, because, as we mentioned, it's all going to be about the PlayStation 2. We want to take almost a PlayStation 2 in review and take a look back at what was arguably the best console of our young days. And I thought we'd really kick things off. What was your road to getting a PlayStation 2, Scott? Can you remember?
I can't even remember. I think it was... I remember the first time I seen a PS2.
Mm-hmm.
My brother had moved out into a flat, and I went to see him there for the first time, and he had this console, and I was like, what is that? I'd like no interest in like following news or knew that a PS2 was coming out.
Yeah.
I just went in and I was like, what is that? And the game on top of it was The Bouncer.
Yeah.
Absolute classic. But I remember just thinking, like, can I see it? So he showed me, and I was blown away. Mm-hmm. So I used to go up to his house every week to play it. And it was games like, Legends of Wrestling, like terrible wrestling games and stuff like that we would play on it, and like obviously play FIFA and stuff as well. But it was just incredible. And then somehow I think he moved back in, and it ended up back at our house, and that's when it became, my console at that point. I lived with it, so it was mine. That's my first memories with it, is just it showing up and it just being there and being like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, by this point, so I had the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, and I didn't get the PlayStation 2 at launch.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't something that was, I think, PlayStation 4, I think was the first console I remember getting launched, but
Yeah.
the road to it was a funny one for me. Obviously, I was aware because I would always buy gaming magazines, like Games Master and stuff like that. And I was very aware, and it was very much like you would get introduced to these things through someone that had it, as opposed to like, I'm just going to take a whim because you don't have any of your own money at this point in life. And for me, I remember my mum and my dad asking me, it's like, look, what is it you want for Christmas? Do you want a PlayStation 2 or do you want a DVD player? Right? Muggins here, very aware that the PlayStation 2 was a DVD player. For some strange reason, I picked a DVD player. And I realise now, as an adult, they had put that choice in front of me, and I think they swayed me because that DVD player would then go downstairs under the big telly.
Aye.
So they had the DVD player. So I remember that like year and a bit of regret because it was like another. Yeah, it was pretty much another year till I finally got a PlayStation 2, and by this point the console had been out for a few years.
Yeah. Probably a good time to get it.
It was, and I remember like I got it on my birthday. Very fortunate for that to happen, and I got Spider-Man, the movie. It was the first game that I got with it, and I was...
Of course it was.
Of course it was. And it was, oh man, fantastic. But I remember the lead up to it though, and one of my friends at school had it, and going to his house, and it was Metal Gear Solid 2. I remember playing it, and I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, like, this looks like from another planet.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I remember how crisp and fresh it all felt. And other games like State of Emergency, if you remember that.
Christ, aye.
And SSX Tricky. Like
Yes.
just going up there and playing that all the time with my friends. And that was basically the way it continued. And then, of course, Grand Theft Auto 3. So I didn't get Grand Theft Auto 3 at release as well, but I remember just playing it at my friend's house all the time. I didn't get it probably till about a year after it was out. And I've got a funny story for that one as well. So obviously I wasn't old enough to buy the game. I remember going into, it would have been Electronics Boutique at the time before it became Game. This was in the Glasgow Forge, right? Okay, so, and I was with my gran, effectively, right? I was with my gran. She was actually my great aunt, but she was effectively my gran. And we were in there in the shops, and I had some money because I used to do some like cut the grass and all that and get some pocket money for it. And £20 they were doing the deal for it at the time, and you got a free copy of Reservoir Dogs. And I went up to try and buy it, and the guy rightfully so was like, "Here, mate, like you're 12, no." So I then went outside the shop, said to my dear elderly relative, "Could you please go in and get it?" And she was an absolute diamond, didn't even think twice, like, "No bother, son." And she went, purchased Grand Theft Auto 3 and Reservoir Dogs, and the guy must have thought they're definitely at it here. But she, "There you go, son." I remember going up the road just like, oh my God, like I've got a twofer, like, because Reservoir Dogs is fantastic, and then just finally getting to be able to just enjoy that sandbox, you know, instead of like pass a controller was amazing. And I think that's one thing that definitely made the PlayStation 2 great though, was that it felt like everybody had it, or everybody had a touchstone to it.
That's what I was going to say, is that you always had a friend that had one, or like you would always be at someone's house. Like it felt like, you know, the perfect couch co-op, or like, you know, even if it wasn't couch co-op, as you were passing the controller. Like I have memories of playing like Metal Gear Solid 2 on it, or like Sonic games and stuff, fighting games like Tekken and stuff like that. I used to go to my mate's house, like my next door neighbour's house, all the time. And I'd be in there every single day and we'd be playing something. It was class. Like
Tekken 3 always jumps out to me.
It's always Tekken Tag Tournament.
Yes,
I think that I sort of associate with it, but it was just like perfect for that, you know. And it was, you've said it yourself just by mentioning Spider-Man, but it was like the home of the licensed games.
Oh man,
like,
yes.
We've mentioned them a few times on here. You've got your Spider-Man games, you've got Lord of the Rings games and stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
looking at my notes here.
It's just incredible. Like
those games. I mean, I have to pause here. Because you're right. The license that just felt like an era in gaming in itself. Where, of course, every film had to get. And we spoke about tie-ins a lot of the past few weeks, but Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, and that was so special. Like, such a fantastic hack and slash game. I played that game to death, to absolute death. And then I just remember the build up to Return of the King coming out, getting that, and you get a snippet of the film before it came in the cinemas. And oh man, it was so damn good. And yeah, Spider-Man 2 as well.
Yeah, even now, like, I could go back and play it. I've got a PS2 set up in my house when I want to play it all the time, and it's just like it's there to play things like Onimusha. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can play the first Onimusha, but Onimusha 2, Onimusha 3 live on that console. Even just like weird games, it was like you're getting. We look at these trailers now, and it's like Infinity Nikki games, and we're like, what the hell is this? But these games were like all over the place in PlayStation 2. Like, it was just full of weird games like Psyops, Second Sight. Like, it was mad.
Beautiful ones as well. Like, I felt like there was a lot more artistic license, or they could take it because the market was smaller. But things like Okami, Ico, games like that,
Shadow of the Colossus. It was just incredible. And you know, games now, you don't. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. You don't walk into a game store and look at the front of the box and be like, oh my god. Like, games back then, like the front of the box art and stuff like that always had purpose. It was always like, that is incredible. Like, you'd look at Eco and you'd be like, a couple of wee guys walking up to some windmills, and it's like, what is that? And then you'd look at the back of the box and you'd be like, ooh.
See, this is, and it adds to the allure of the PlayStation 2. And I know I'm looking at this with rose-tinted glasses, because the reality of it is we didn't have disposable income. YouTube wasn't a thing. So like now, I'd imagine, like, if my kids are older and they want a game, you could, if they didn't have the money for it, you could effectively just watch gameplay online. See, if we had that option back then, oh god, back in the day, Jesus, I'm old. But if you had that option, I remember exactly doing that, like going into something like a W.H. Smith and just lusting after this game, and you'd go and pick up the game that you wanted multiple times and multiple trips, because that was the only way you could interact with it.
It was incredible. Like,
even like sometimes had the manual in it, and you could just open it and have a look.
But that's part of it as well, is like, you've got the manual. Like, these things in games were amazing. Like, you read, I always think back to like fighting games, like Street Fighter games, where you look through it and you can see like the combos and stuff like that. Or if you've picked up a pre-owned copy, someone's written codes in the box and stuff like that. Like, it's mad. And like memory card slots for the every single case. Like, every single case had a bit for a memory card. It's like, how many memory cards do you have?
I know. Well, they were expensive.
They were expensive.
That was the thing. Like, that was another part about it that was funny, like the accessories and that. Like, everything felt so deliberate, because you couldn't just go out and get loads of memory cards. I had one. It was a Mad Catz. It must have cost me about £25, which is an absolute megaton of cash.
How big was it though?
Must be 8 meg, something like that. It was tiny.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It had like a note, like a piece of paper on top, a sticker, and you could write on it. I can remember it was like Grand Theft Auto and whatever else I was playing at the time. And I was like, why am I writing on this? You know, because I don't know how big a save file would have been back in the day, but I remember like managing okay with it. I never had to buy a second one. I would just kind of delete and move on. But I mean, you're right. Like, it felt like the PlayStation 2 put households on the journey to make gaming more ubiquitous within it. Now, I'll probably hand it over to the next generation at that point, but at this point,
that what you said about the DVD player thing is a massive part of it as well, because kind of go back and I've got no concept of the history of the PS2, because like, I was young and stupid when it came out. I was 9, if that yet. You know, I might have even been 8 when that console came out, and it was going back and looking at it. It's like, as you say, you had to toss up between whether or not you wanted to get a DVD player, which was expensive back in those days, or you could get a PlayStation 2, which was significantly cheaper and had the same thing. So it's like, we talk about entertainment systems and having these entertainment hubs in the house, but that's what that was. Like, it just served that dual purpose, and then you maybe by proxy got to play these games. It was class. And
I think that was a secret sauce. Like, it was such a smart strategy from Sony.
It was like covert.
It really was.
Covert, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think this is where you start to see games companies target the living room. And obviously Xbox maybe jumped the shark a wee bit by the time they got the Xbox One. But I mean, you've said it a few weeks ago as well. It's like you use these as entertainment systems in the house, almost like you could watch television and everything through them now, but without something like the PlayStation 2 doing that, because it was like, it's a DVD player as well, really.
Yes.
And then, you know, it was a bit of a buzz when that worked.
Yeah.
When coming back to that story I told you how I got it, I'm realising, so do you know the 2 DVDs that I got with it was this is when I knew at the time, I was like, you bought that for yourself.
Done me here.
So one of them was definitely for me, Shrek. Right?
Fantastic.
Shrek and DVD, fantastic experience. The other one, Miss Congeniality. Right?
Maybe you really liked.
No, listen, that's a fantastic film, right? But I remember just like watching it, just thinking, no, this is mine.
Yeah,
like,
is that Sandra Bullock in that?
Yeah, Sandra Bullock, Michael Caine.
Can remember? I've never seen it, but
It's actually a fantastic film. I'll defend it to the death. But I never asked for it, and but I knew my mum was dying to see it. So I'm like, I saw you eyeing that up in the video shop.
that's hilarious. And you're saying it there, the video shop.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just synonymous with that period of time where you walk into like your local rental and you can just pick up games and just try them out for the weekend or something like that. It was just what a time to be alive.
And you know, I think outside of this, you know, the install base was huge, which made it so special. It added to that element of like people could come in and say out the house, or you could go to other people's houses, and it was a bit of a universal language. And the big thing for me was it come down to like sports games.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned FIFA, but for me it was Pro Ev.
Aye.
So Pro Evolution Soccer for the uninitiated.
About International Superstar Soccer.
ISS, yep, absolutely. But for me, I remember Pro Evolution Soccer 2 was the first one I remember playing, and it was my cousin that had that, and he was huge onto this game, and he swore by it, and I was very much like, nah, mate, this is, FIFA is the one.
Aye.
And FIFA back then was trash.
What a shite.
Trash. And then it was Pro Evolution Soccer 3, and they started to get licenses dripped in. By the time it got to Pro Evolution Soccer 4, this was a phenomenon with all of my friends at the time, and we would literally, one person would buy it, they'd bring the PlayStation 2 to somebody's house that had an empty, and you would just sit and have tournaments all day. And that was the way of life.
It's
and
the best, aye.
putting all those countless hours into Master League. And by this point, I was like, 14, 15, say. And Pro Evolution Soccer was like an annual event.
Yeah.
And it was something that would carry me through all year. And then on top of that, we can't forget the SmackDown games.
Oh,
like,
mate.
Golden Age.
Yeah, that was the peak. The peak of wrestling games was your SmackDown games. Like, I would spend hours, and I'm not even like exaggerating here, potential days just making characters.
Yeah.
Like, every single one of them maybe had the same moveset. They had a powerbomb finisher or a chokeslam every single time.
Yep.
But my God, you would have so much fun. You would do like Royal Rumbles, random Royal Rumbles, or Hell in a Cell, just to put the character through the cell.
Oh yeah, and
just
they got better and better. Like
every time
you were seeing it. It's a bit like, if I use the football analogy, you know, we've lived through seeing peak Messi.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like that with SmackDown games. Like, you had, was it Shut Your Mouth? No, it was Know Your Role.
Know Your Role.
And what came after Know Your Role?
Taste the Pain.
Taste it. Here comes the pain. And then I remember Shut Your Mouth.
Yes.
And at that point, it felt like it was just liquid arcade wrestling.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And obviously, it was followed up with SmackDown versus Raw, which were, again, it took a long time for it to run out of steam.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't until the next generation, I'd say, until it went to PlayStation 4, Xbox One era. But wrestling games, again, were events. Like, these were like some of the best games you could buy on it. And then on top of that, we're talking about playing with friends. Guitar Hero 1 and 2.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Like,
I was coming to it. I was coming to it. And even just peripherals in general for the PS2. Like, your SingStar games.
And
like
iToy.
iToy. Oh, iToy.
Yeah.
I still think about the clearing windows thing.
Yes, yes. Aye.
It's so good. But Guitar Hero, as I say, there's a few games that I think of in my life that really made me. Metal Gear Solid, the whole series are those games, but Guitar Hero 2 was like the touchstone of my life to becoming a metalhead. Like, it was just like,
Absolutely.
I am absorbing everything this game can give me, and it had Freebird at the end.
Yes.
Like, what more could you ask for?
I know, it was phenomenal. It was nothing like it. Like, nothing like it. And simple to master as well. Simple to pick up and play, difficult to master. But there's ones I've made a note here and I forgot as well. Like, Tony Hawk's as well. Like, 3, 4, Underground. These were all, again, quintessential games. And you could play them for hours. Like, you know, online gaming hadn't taken hold. It was nowhere near it. You could play something like SOCOM and stuff like that, but it was very much like, what? It wasn't part of our, you know, societal language at that point, like getting online and playing games. But it very much was like beating scores, sitting alongside with friends. That was our multiplayer. You know, that did make it special. You know, would I go back? We could never go back to it.
I'd like to go back for a day. Just experience like a day of playing like Tekken 4 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, just go back and enjoy it. Like, the first time you play Tekken 4 and you turn it up and it's like, this is the coolest thing of all time. Like, even just go back, thinking about fighting games, because, you know, a big part of my life, but Soul Calibur 2, like, Soul Calibur, it's just like, I
mean, if I was to sum up the transition as well, though, like, from PlayStation, which was very rough.
Yes.
PlayStation 2 is very smooth. And yes, of course, the games have dated and they've aged, but there's still ones out there. They mentioned Metal Gear Solid 2. In fact, all the Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid games on it, like, they've aged very, very well, I would say. And they do have like they're capable of high quality presentations.
Yeah. Even things like, you know, Kingdom Hearts.
Kind of when
you're talking about the transition, what it made me think of is like the transition of going from a series of games. So it's like you've got, I think Final Fantasy 9 was potentially the last PS1 Final Fantasy.
It was, yeah, because then it was 10 on PS2.
It's like that jump is just incredible. Like, Final Fantasy 10 is a gorgeous game.
Yeah,
it's obviously been remastered and stuff, but if you don't play the remastered version, you're not missing out on anything. People love the original version of it because it's gorgeous. But just like being able to carry that forward, like going from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 2 is like, that jump is just wild.
It's mind-boggling. It was still
wizardry,
to this day.
Wizardry, it's nuts.
It really is. Like, they had no rights. And I mentioned things like Okami and that as well, but this other, like, just massive. You're talking about games that are many people's favourite of all time. Burnout 3, God of War, even like the Gran Turismo games, Bully,
Devil May Cry,
even all the Grand Theft Auto games on it, you know, like Vice City 3, San Andreas, you name it. I mean, in terms of a catalogue,
it's wild.
It's like, this is the one that I think has more than a right to step in the ring with like a Nintendo or something like that. It's unbelievable, the amount of games. And yes, it's probably, as we mentioned, that mixture of IP, developers are getting new toys to play with, have a little bit more power, just being creative and innovative. And oh man, like, it has to go down. You know, where do we rank the PlayStation 2? You know, and our own personal list of consoles.
I honestly don't think you could put it anywhere but the top. I really don't. I think you'd be hard pressed. Like, just the sheer volume of the games.
Well, we spoke about 360 last week, and I think this just beats the 360 for me, because 360 was a phenomenal console, but I could not put that above the PlayStation 2.
No chance.
You know, and I think you're right. Like,
it's the fact that we are Sony turning on a wee switch and just putting emulation on the PlayStation, or bringing us backwards compatibility. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could play the PS1 games on the PS2, but just let us play PS2 games.
There's still such excitement. I mean, this week the Time Splitters games have came back.
Time Splitters is like, it's nuts. It's just the minute they drop, like, you know, I can't even think of just anything. Like, drop me Soul Calibur 2. Give me it all. Give me everything.
Even
and I'll eat.
Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, Warrior Within.
Yeah,
where we went all emo. It was great. I mean, it's just
Need for Speed. Need for Speed Underground, like Underground 2.
Need for Speed Underground 2. There could not be a more perfectly released time, a perfectly released game at a certain time and space and place in human history. Like,
is that the one with Black Betty in it?
I'm not sure, but it was when the Fast and Furious, the
Yeah.
street racing trend could not be
It was enormous.
hotter. And
Yeah.
then dovetailing with that, the Def Jam games.
Oh my good
So,
God.
you know, everything just felt like it was just hitting at the right
It was
time with this console
like-
and the games
So,
catalogue.
I'm sorry, right? I know you want to move on and we want to
Not
move
at all,
on in
not at all.
time, but Def Jam completely blueballed us because they told us give us a million likes on this and a million followers on Twitter and we'll announce a new Def Jam game.
Yes.
And it never happened. Now I'm not angry. I'm just sad. I'm disappointed, right? But
Very mature.
it's just Def Jam Fight for New York. It's just an incredible game. Def Jam Vendetta. I'm a big believer in D-Mob. What a voice. What a voice. But you've just made me think about EA. Because we think about EA, you talk about, FIFA, you talk about your Madden games. But what about games like NFL Street, NBA Street,
FIFA Street.
FIFA Street? It's just like we were getting these games all the time and they were incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it's just I played NFL Street 2 to death. You'd make a character and you'd just create a team. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
then I tried to play it again recently and it looks terrible, but it's just ridiculous. Like, I'll forget now what we're talking about in terms of the games that we're talking about, and then I'll just think of a game series that I played on PS2. It's like, my Christ, what a game.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that makes it so special. I mean, for me, I don't think we could ever go back. I mean, if there's one thing I would like to see back, is just a little bit more variety within the library.
Yeah.
Because, and that happens, gaming's got so much bigger as a business. And, it costs a lot more money to make them, so you have to hedge your bets.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, gaming was so much better back in the day. Not at all. Like, games we're getting out are incredible and they still blow my mind. I still get that Metal Gear Solid 2
Yeah.
feeling when I see like a God of War Ragnarok or something
Yeah.
like that. Even Black Myth Wukong's the next one. People have just been showering it with praise. It's like, how does this look so good? And the way games are presented still mean a lot. But for me, to kind of sum it up, I mean, I think I owed the PlayStation 2 a lot because it was the console that definitely pushed me into that orbit of going from this being something that I would do casually into becoming a passion for the rest of the days, and gaming would be very much something that would stay with me. And, I spent a lot of time with that console, and also we're both playing that as young
Yeah.
teenagers. You're going through a lot of nonsense at that time as well, and you don't really have a lot of time for a social life in
It's
between it.
true, aye.
But I've got a lot of memories, and it was a refuge. It really was back in the day. So I owe it a lot, and yeah, I think for me it's definitely the top of the tree for me.
It would be hard for me to suggest otherwise. I'm literally just going through forgotten gems of the PS2 era, and it is just the games that we're mentioning, like even just the Bouncer, Get a Room, man. How about the Punisher game?
The Punisher game was fantastic, and I'll never forget playing that and just putting a drill through somebody's head. And it was just like, what? I mean, there's other ones as well, like Manhunt.
Yeah.
The Getaway.
Yes.
Was another one. Like, I remember playing that.
Most confusing game on earth, because who tells you that you follow the what do you call them? I'm driving a car home and I can't even tell you what it's called. The
Peugeots.
No, not Peugeots. What's it be lights you put on? Your indicators that you follow them to get to certain places. It's just ridiculous.
I know.
Just Tenchu games.
Yes.
I was also just looking at one there, which was Blood Omen, the Blood Omen series, so part of the sort of obviously Legacy of Kain series.
Yep.
They're bringing them back out on Evercade, and I am also minutes away if they announce anything to do with a Soul Reaver drop of those games. I'll end. That'll be me. I'm done.
But there is a remaster coming, 1 and 2.
Where?
You talk about Legacy of Kain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Soul Reaver ones, like Blood Omen and stuff.
Oh,
like that.
right. No, sorry. Aye.
I know the
Those
Legacy of
things.
Kain ones, but it's just it's ridiculous. Like it was just an absolutely ridiculous console, and the fact that we think we've ended all the conversation about the games that have come out, and then you just say that.
Yep.
Wild, absolutely wild. I know. King Kong.
Good times. I probably more so say that with 360 to be fair, but I think whilst we're talking about games, of course, I think it's time to move on, which means, of course, that it's time for the Pixel Picks Showdown, where each week we each pick a game from a chosen theme and decide which one deserves to live on in the hallowed Pixel Picks list, which is our definitive list of the best games we recommend and pass on to the next generation of gamers. Now, last week's theme was Xbox 360, with Gears of War becoming the latest addition to that list. And in this week's showdown, of course, we're going to be debating what the best PS2 game is we think should feature on the list. Not an easy task.
No, it's definitely not.
But of course, as always, last week's winner goes last. So let's get to it. I believe we both came in with the same one last week, but did we agree that we'll hand that to you?
You won.
I won?
You won the heads or tails.
Did I? Right, okay, well, you go first.
You got tails.
Well, there's so many to choose from, so I think we have to insist on a hard one honourable mention, main pick, and I do have a funny feeling
same game.
There'll be crossover.
I think it'll be the
same.
50-50
chance.
Yeah. So I've mentioned a few already, right? And that goes without saying. Hadn't even thought about Def Jam, but my honourable mention, I mentioned it earlier on, was Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
When I think of the PS2, I think of two games. Mm-hmm. It's Final Fantasy X and my choice. Final Fantasy X is a seminal game for me. It is, the entry point of kind of JRPGs for me. Like, it's just an incredible story, gameplay, characters. I love it. I love everything about it, but it's not the choice. Quickly getting to the choice.
Okay.
It could only be one game for me, and it's only ever going to be one game for me, and it's Metal Gear Solid 2.
Okay.
Sons of Liberty.
Okay.
Could have been 3, but I'll save that for another time. Metal Gear Solid 2, I can't think of any other game that, epitomizes everything that the PS2 stands for. It is just the only game that I ever think of when I think of that console, because I just see my own PS2 sitting there and my copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 sitting right next to it. I never played Metal Gear Solid 2 when it released. I watched my cousin Graham play it. I don't know why. My cousin Graham never stayed over at our house.
It's so watchable, though.
Ever, yeah. But I remember it obviously happened. It came out in the wake of, obviously, 9/11, because they had to change some of the scenes at the end of it.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting up really late with him, and he kept on telling me jokes about 9/11, which is terrible. Absolutely terrible. He kept on telling me daft jokes about 9/11, right? He's older than me. But it's just... What more can you say about it? It's just, it's gorgeous. For it to carry on the legacy of Metal Gear Solid and start to create that weaving story. Like, Metal Gear Solid 1, if that was a game by itself, you're like, who is Big Boss? Mm-hmm. Who are all these weird characters? At the end, you've obviously got Ocelot talking. Who is he talking to? Mr. President?
Yeah.
Who's the president?
Mm-hmm.
And you find out it's George Sears. And then you start to meet all the different characters. You've got Solidus. You've got Iroquois Pliskin.
Yeah.
If you've not played the Tanker chapter at first, you've got Pliskin. Who's Pliskin? He looks very similar. And then you've obviously got the big elephant in the room with Raiden. Obviously, everyone hated Raiden when he first came out, but I think now,
history's been kind to Metal Gear Solid 2, but I think if I'm honest, it's like for a very long time it was the black sheep of the series because of the Raiden switch.
Yeah,
you know, and it's not been until the last 5 to 10 years where people have realised Kojima, because of the type we live in crazy times, Kojima was almost like providing a prophetic commentary on what's to come. Yeah, you know, which is terrifying.
exactly what I was going to say. Was that I wrote in my notes that he is the Simpsons of video games, because if the Simpsons suggest something's going to happen, it happens. Hideo Kojima suggests something happens, it's going to happen.
Oh God,
do you know what I mean?
We're going to be walking about hills carting boxes next.
COVID.
Yeah,
like he did with Death Stranding. Like he basically predicted that we're all going to be stuck in our houses and get hundreds of things delivered.
True. Strand game isn't a genre, but on you go.
It is. I'll stand for it. But you know, it was such a departure from what Metal Gear Solid is. So if you play that first game and no second game, there are similarities, but they're wildly different. Just in terms of the gameplay and stuff as well, like peeking around corners, using the shoulder buttons to peek up and down, kind of go left and right. It's just nuts. Having the tranquilizer, so you can do all that. It's just incredible stuff. Frisking guards to get dog tags and stuff as well. Amazing. It's just a perfect game. And that's basically why it's my pick. It's
Okay.
As I say, I couldn't think of anything else.
Excellent. No, I mean, this, with you going in, this isn't going to be easy, this one, right? This is probably the hardest one we'll have. So I will do the same. My honourable mention this week is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Just because it's my favourite in the series. And I love Metal Gear Solid 2 because I think it was really ahead of its time. But again, if I'm being honest, I didn't really fully appreciate it at first because I was like, writing was a bit lame. I was like, okay, but Metal Gear Solid 3, like you said, it very could have easily been your pick.
Yeah, easily.
I think
I'm holding it for something special. I don't know why I'm keeping it to myself, but it's
what's that?
3.
Three?
Metal Gear
Oh,
Solid 3.
yeah.
You know my thoughts on Metal Gear Solid 3. It's my favourite of the series.
Exactly.
Without a doubt.
That's why I had to pick it. I mean, I think the game's pure swagger. I think, again, for exactly the same reasons that you've mentioned, and this is what made the series so special, is that no two games were really the same. And if you've played them, you know that. If you haven't, outside looking in, you might think that. But each one of these Metal Gear Solid games, they offer something, shakes it up. And then, the story, the characters, the setting, there's something about it immediately. And I only really paid attention to it in passing, thinking this was a long way off. Then one day I remember Metal Gear Solid 3 being in the shops.
Yeah.
And then my cousin had it, and I'm like, what's this? And then seeing like the camouflage system, and immediately my imagination went wild. And it was like, this is so, so cool. And then the fact that you realise it is set in the past. And, let's just talk about the bosses as well. I mean, if there's one thing the series is known for...
Oh, it's bosses. I mean, you could wax lyrical on any Metal Gear Solid game.
Any of them. I mean, even though bosses, characters, story setting, all of them, they have these hallmarks. But something about 3 felt so special.
Yeah, it's just... They've all got a better personality. I think Fat Man in Metal Gear Solid 2 is obviously the best boss in that game, and Vamp.
And Vamp's introduction, so iconic.
Wild. And then you've obviously got Solidus and Ocelot.
Yeah.
But having... Even just take every single boss battle out of Metal Gear Solid 3 and just leave the end. It's wild. And then all the sort of the rumours of if you leave your console on long enough, you'll die of old age.
Yep.
It's just...
boss with the pain, obviously the boss, absolutely gorgeous, like boss fight in itself, like the iconography of that fight alone, stunning. And then just seeing Ocelot back and all that, like seeing them in their younger selves, and it was such a buzz, and it was a setting that you weren't really used to seeing in mainstream games. And it had that kind of browny green filter over the top of it, everything. And of course, that soundtrack, which kind of gave it that kind of 60s Bond-esque feel to the whole thing. It was just like, for me, it's Hideo Kojima's finest moment still. Yeah. And he's had a lot of fine moments, so he can take his pick, and people can take their pick, and I won't disagree, because I think he's, choose from a pile of 10s. That's really what a choice is. Yeah. But such a special game. But I didn't pick it this week because, you know me, I'm a fan of fruit, particularly the low-hanging
fruit.
But I've really put my thinking cap on about it, because I'm like, right, if I was to go out and speak to people, like we mentioned, both the hardcore and casual alike, and I'm like, PlayStation 2, and what game springs to mind for it when they talk about it? And that's evidence in sales, it's evidenced in just the cultural impact of, I remember being at school, and it didn't matter if you were a nerd or if you were a goth or anything, you had this game, you played it, you had a touchstone to it, and if you didn't, you wanted to, you'd be going to your friend's house to play it, you name it. And it might seem trite, it might seem slightly contrived as well, but for me, the game is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yeah.
And that just felt like it was more than a game. It felt like a way of life. In a sense, it was a cultural moment.
It was 3 gets its flowers.
Absolutely.
Vice City doesn't really get as much love.
Well, from the hardcore.
Yeah, but San Andreas was, boot down the door. We're here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it felt like something in gaming changed at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you had I remember so many people, they had the PlayStation 2, they had a copy of San Andreas, and they had a copy of Pro Evolution Soccer. That was it. And that's all they played. And even, I remember my next door neighbour at the time, he was one of those people. And obviously I grew up in a small village in Glasgow. So it's like, that's all you would do. You would play one of the 2 games, and it would be people I'd be surprised at. Because it's like, they weren't playing, Okami or Metal Gear Solid or even like Burnout. God, they weren't playing any of that. But it was San Andreas constantly. And outside the football games, of course, but for me, it pulled in gamers across all spectrums of interests, from casual to hardcore. But I mean, the size of that map, the endless fun, the way that it captured 90s rap culture in Los Angeles, it was unbelievable. And then obviously, just, oh shit, here we go again. But the way that it takes you through all different parts of that, from Los Santos to all the way down to Las Venturas as well. You've got a mini version of like Compton, Los Angeles to San Francisco to Las Vegas, unlocking planes and jetpacks and their version of Area 51 or Area 69, I think it was. It was exactly, it was unbelievable. Everybody played this game, and I remember it being the last game of, well, I hate to say playground, but break time lore. Like when you were out about at high school talking to people, it was the last game I remember people really exchanging cheats on.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody had a touchstone to this game. Yeah. And for me, it just screams PlayStation 2 like nothing else, because it was like, if there's just one game, people would say you could have one game in a PlayStation 2, they're picking that, I think.
You'd be hard not to.
I know, and I'm totally agreeing with you. I've got it down here in my notes. I think like San Andreas had it all. The hardcore fans and hardcore gamers will always pick Vice City because we're awkward. That's basically it. It's like, what's your favourite album in the back catalogue? I prefer the B-sides album. But it's like, Vice City wasn't a B-side, of course, but I mean, it's not as complete a game as San Andreas. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, the setting of it, the music, the characters, the story it tells, it was just tighter, but it was just also smaller. And I remember, see, once you've played San Andreas and try to go back to Vice City at that point in time, difficult really to do. Yeah. And you feel the gap, you feel like stuff is missing, and it's just small things, being able to like shoot out tires and having extra transport options. The RPG elements.
I was just going to say, making CJ fat and stuff like that. It's just
hench.
Going to get your haircut.
You also had the hot coffee controversy as well. But I mean, there was so much in that game. It was bonkers. It was such a like commentary in America as a whole.
But even at the time, like you're the soundtrack of it. Like I still have a playlist on my phone which is just San Andreas soundtrack, because it's not just it's not just rap music. You've got all the country music, you've got all the weird talk shows and stuff. It's just it's an incredible thing. I mean,
you say that already, like, so I'm just it's
K-Rock.
K-Rock, I even enjoyed the talk show stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And it was really disappointing when like the kind of remasters came out, because they couldn't get the full soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that's just a rights issue at the end of the day, isn't it? But I mean, you had everything on that soundtrack, though. I mean, like, you're right. Like, you had Rage Against the Machine, Tupac, James Brown, Eddie Money, Cypress Hill,
Eddie Money,
2 Tickets to Paradise.
Oh my God, man!
Flying a plane with that, it's going just, over.
You do.
San Fierro.
You skip them all just for that one song. I've waited so long.
What's the other ones that they had on it as well? You had like Crazy by Willie Nelson. You had Barracuda.
All My Exes Live in Texas.
And you've got
Hollywood
Swinging, Cool and the Gang.
Yes.
You know, You Dropped a Bomb on Me by the Gap Band. You know, there's
So
like,
see, going back as an adult now, I'd love to go back, and I probably will now go back to the original game just to hear it all again, because it's just a moment in time.
I love a rainy night.
It's just a complete time capsule. Like, it'll unlock core memories in my head that will just be like,
And I think it was a game that people would endlessly play and never finish it.
Yeah.
Now, I know the vast majority of players won't do that. They won't finish games anyway. But San Andreas, it was so huge. I mean, at the time, this was like, what? You know, like, you can go where? You can fly a plane over here and charter a flight effectively for yourself. Yeah, it has to be my pick this week. And I do, like, I'm confidently picking that and making its case, because I think it is, whilst I agree, Metal Gear Solid 2 is such a special game, and one that comes to mind for me with PlayStation 2. But when I think about it as a whole, San Andreas is the one that is just like, Christ, you don't even have to ask where they played it. You know, I mean, they could have played it on Xbox later, but everybody had it. Everybody had this game, man.
It was
like,
always there.
The ultimate PS2 game has to be Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
I think you'd be hard to argue it, to be honest with you. I think if you'd come at me and said Vice City, I'd have been like, right, rein yourself in, but maybe not though, because
Vice City is fantastic.
I love Vice City,
fantastic, but amazing game.
It's just, again, it's a game that you could play forever, and even just jumping in for half an hour, putting in a few cheats, and shooting everyone in your way. I'm happy to concede that.
I should add, this was a PlayStation 2 exclusive for a long time, which is why I can get away with adding it.
But, no. I think I think that it is, for everything that you've said about it. It is, it personifies everything that we know about Grand Theft Auto. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it's just a game that everybody would have had in common, and also that's not the main reason I picked it. I picked it because I really fucking enjoyed that game.
Definitely. I'm tired of pretending that Grand Theft Auto 3 was good though.
I mean, listen, I think it's very much, you have to view it at the time, but you're right. Going back to that, it's ass.
Yeah.
It's
like
missing a lot of stuff.
Claude isn't a good character.
No,
it's not good.
But I mean, I think it's more just, it's like Super Mario 64. Like, you go. I'm sorry. You go back and play that now. Yeah. It's not a good experience. And if you want something that's a little bit more modernised, you're not playing that. You're playing even like Super Mario Odyssey or something instead. But they haven't held up the same as the 2D ones have. And you're right. Like GTA 3, I think it respect it for what it did at the time. But yeah, there's better ones in the series.
Just
better one, and even 4's better than 3. Come at me. But yeah, no. Well, congratulations to Rockstar here's another award for your countless many.
Well,
you have
the most important one,
which is the best PS2 game, goes to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And that, of course, brings us to the end of this week's podcast. So thank you once again for joining us. And if you like what you hear and enjoy the podcast, just leave us a wee 5-star review.
A wee one.
Of course, it helps us out, makes a big difference. Now, Scott, Test Time, where can people find you online if they wish to engage with you?
Llamaman91 on the old Twitter, and I am now devoting myself to posting a PS2 game every single day. Just a random PS2 game.
Okay, excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing that. And Phil Marks, you got it right first time.
Phil Marks on what?
Remembering the handle.
I remember that now.
And of course, if you want to engage with me, but I won't be sharing PlayStation 2 games every day, but probably rants at Elon Musk, you can get me at Carmelite on Twitter, because I won't call it by its new name.
Ooh.
And of course, now I need to make a point here for a second before we finish. Last week, I forgot to thank the one and only Mr. Sean Murray.
How dare you? I think that's probably my fault, because I started the conversation about music.
Ah, right, okay.
So I'm sorry, Sean. I really am.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I've already pointed it out whilst he was editing last week's episode. But of course, a double thanks to make up for last week as well to the producer and music man himself, the very talented and so handsome Mr. Sean Murray. We really do love you as a person. Honestly,
just love my bits. I really do.
Love it with bits. And of course, you can listen to the next episode on all major podcast platforms and follow us on Twitter at pixel_parents. Or if you want to, you can write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and thanks for listening.